Hello, welcome to a very special episode of Cotton. And we have with us today Dipankar Bhattacharjee, who is the General Secretary of CPIML. And welcome, Mr. Bhattacharjee, to this program. And I'm very happy that you could, even after such a busy schedule, you could spare a little time for us. Now, if I could straightway go to you, the first thing is that, okay, you and your party played a very important role in forming the opposition alliance, opposition unity. And I believe the first meeting was held in Patna. Is it so?
Yeah, that's right. The first meeting was on 23rd June. And in fact, before that opposition meeting, we had our own party congress in February in Patna. And we devoted one particular session of the congress to the theme of opposition unity. And we held a special seminar where Nitish Kumar had also participated, and along with Salman Khurshid of the Congress, Tejashi Yadav, and VCK leader Tiruma Balban from Tamil Nadu. Yeah.
Okay, good, great. Now, see, when Nitish Kumar, he joined the opposition alliance, there's a lot of actually optics and all over India. And but subsequently, when he made a volte-face, how did it affect the tempo of the opposition unity?
To be honest, in Bihar, I think it has been a blessing in disguise. But since in public perception, Nitish Kumar was seen as a major figure who initiated this opposition unity move, and he was a senior leader to have quit NDA. So that definitely that had a, what should I call it, it contributed to the perception in favor of opposition unity. And to an extent, maybe that perception may have suffered a bit because of his desertion to from India and return to the NDA fold. But if you look at the ground reality in Bihar, I think Nitish Kumar today is the most discredited politician because he has done it on too many occasions, several times. He'll switch sides. So that's why his credibility is now an all-time low. And on top of it, he has been the chief minister for nearly 2 decades now. And while he has, development has been his constant theme, but the recent socio-economic survey of Bihar, it revealed that 63% of Bihar households, they have to somehow survive with a monthly income of less than 10,000 rupees. So there is tremendous poverty in spite of all this talk of development. So that's why I think there is a lot of anti-incumbency associated with Nitish Kumar. And in fact, things had started changing a bit during the last 17 months while he was part of our Grand Alliance. And a different agenda had started taking shape. On the basis of the caste survey, reservation was expanded. The Bihar Assembly adopted a resolution endorsing 75% reservation. Then the socio-economic survey brought the focus back on poverty. So people were no longer satisfied with the rhetoric of development, but the discussion started about concrete poverty elimination measures. And then jobs, permanent jobs with decent wages, government jobs. That was one of our main commitments during the 2020 assembly elections. Nitish Kumar had to work on that. And for the first time, after probably years together, Bihar saw a real drive for recruitment of teachers and other permanent jobs. So that created a lot of hope and dynamism in Bihar society. So I think one of the main reasons why the BJP was so keen to get Nitish Kumar back, in spite of the liability that he brings, was partly to gain power in a state like Bihar as part of its campaign against all non-BJP governments. And secondly, to abort this alternative agenda, which had started taking shape, because this would not have remained confined to Bihar. This would have had a national appeal. So the BJP got alerted. They didn't want this kind of agenda to take shape from Bihar. And thirdly, Nitish Kumar in the Grand Alliance meant an alternative kind of communist socialist unity. So they don't want that kind of socialist, because if you look at the left politics today, in West Bengal, in Kerala, even though notionally the left is part of the India Alliance, but they are actually working outside the India Alliance on the ground. So Bihar and Jharkhand, these are the only two states where the left has a significant presence inside the India coalition because of our strong presence in these two states. And that's why I think it was very important for them to take Nitish Kumar away, so that this doesn't really have that kind of broad opposition space. So these are the reasons why the BJP must have taken Nitish Kumar back. But I think this is some kind of liability transferred to the BJP now, at least in the short run. And the people are very, very angry. So I don't see this causing any upset in Bihar. But in terms of perception, of course, there was a perception that India is kind of disintegrating. But I think the last 7 or 10 days, with all this seat sharing, seat sharing coming up in UP. So India is alive in spite of Nitish Kumar's desertion. India,
I want you to actually speak on that a little in detail. That actually, say, there was an impression few days back. There was an impression that as if the opposition unity is breaking down. There is no opposition unity, and BJP was actually BJP and mainstream media. Everybody was speaking about that. Now, how do you see? How do you see? I personally know that okay, at ground level, you see serious works going on for building a formidable opposition unity. But you would definitely know much more, and I would like to request you to elaborate a little more on the present state of opposition unity and alliance.
See, this opposition unity that we see in the form of the India coalition, this is a product of today's circumstances. So, because otherwise you can't possibly explain, parties belonging to obviously diverse ideological streams, diverse political trajectories coming together. So this compulsion is because of the situation, because of the circumstances. So the circumstances are only becoming more and more compelling. So in spite of the individual, preferences of individual leaders or individual parties, some parties may have dropped out, some leaders may, cross sides. But the circumstances which compelled the formation of India in the first place, because of the BJP's fascist aggression, attack on federalism, the erosion of democracy, the constant war on the constitution. The circumstances are only becoming more and more compelling. So that's why I find that on the ground, the situation more or less remains intact. And in fact, if you look in terms of in the electoral coalition as something which only complements the mobilization of the people in struggles on the ground. So the two should be seen as two things complementing each other. So, for example, the farmers' movement, that created a massive political environment. And if the Aam Aadmi Party swept the polls in Punjab, if the Congress came back with such substantial majority in Karnataka, part of the credit should also go to the farmers' movement. Part of the credit should also go to the, in Himachal, for example, if the Congress regained power in the assembly election, part of the credit should go to the employees' movement for the restoration of the old pension scheme. So these issues and the mobilizations of the people on the ground, farmers, young people, the anger against Agniveer, anger against the contract system, and this pension scheme. So these things remain intact. So that mobilization is only growing. For example, if you look at Western UP, where by giving Charan Singh the Bharat Ratna, MS Swaminathan the posthumous Bharat Ratna, the BJP thought that it can, satisfy, hoodwink the farmers. But it has not been possible. So even though this Jayant Chaudhary and his party, RLD, has
They
gone
left.
back to
BJP.
the NDA, but that has not changed the equations on the ground. You see that the Western UP, in Haryana, in Punjab, the farmers are very, very angry. At the same time, Satpal Malik is being raided by CBI, the old man who is in hospital, and his places are being raided by the CPI. He's being persecuted. You see some INLD leader in Haryana. He has been killed in spite of, asking for security. So the anger of the people, for various reasons, that actually keeps on growing. So that's why I think that is the key thing. That and what the political parties are doing, we are only facilitating, by seat sharing arrangement and all, so that we become a political vehicle for the people to channelize their anger and fight for the restoration of democracy in the country. So this is an election which is going to be an election for the restoration of democracy and for saving the Constitution of India. So I think that message has gone down well. And I think in Bihar also on 3rd March, we are going to have a big rally in Gandhi Maidan. And that will show the scale of the rally. I think will definitely, even if there are a few doubts after Nitish Kumar left, I think all those doubts will be completely wiped out once the rally takes place. And Bharat Joro Nyaya Yatra of Rahul Gandhi has also been a significant factor. I think in Assam, in Bihar, and now even in UP, in a state like UP where you didn't really expect that much of popular support, especially the young people. And I think the youth will be a very important factor. The way you find the farcical, all these paper leaks which are happening, millions of people are turning up for just a few thousand seats and spending so much time, energy, money, investing so much hope, and then the leaked. And again, after 6 months, after a year, maybe there will be another examination. So the people, they are just playing with the lives, aspirations, and interests of the youth. I think this is going to impact the BJP quite hugely. This is a major shift from 2014 or even from 2019, the disillusionment among the youth with the Modi government. So these are kind of new features which will defy the standard caste equations, social equations, the standard kind of calculations, opinion polls. I think there will be the youth, the poor, and definitely the common people who have a stake in democracy, who have a stake in the Constitution. And to an extent, the last recent Supreme Court judgments against the electoral bonds, declaring them unconstitutional, and the fraud in the mayoral elections in Chandigarh, which the Supreme Court called it a mockery and murder of democracy. I think these two Supreme Court verdicts have definitely alerted a lot of people, even some people who are probably not yet decided. I think even those people who are not really as worried about the Constitution and democracy, I think they have also started seeing through the real danger. So all these things taken together, I think in spite of a few leaders, few parties not really, joining the India coalition, or seat sharing not actually taking place in a few states. In fact, from the very beginning, we knew that 100% seat sharing is not possible. So that's why the whole attempt was to maximize the scope of seat sharing. We knew that in Kerala, it is not possible and probably it is not advisable too. In Punjab, for example, between Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, it may not be advisable. So this is why Kerala, Punjab, these states have been kept out of the ambit of seat sharing. Even in West Bengal, it may or may not actually happen. But in most other states, I think seat sharing is now happening. And so for the first time, we will really have some real united opposition, even in terms of political parties. And underlying that opposition, electoral opposition unity, there will be the groundswell of popular anger and popular mobilization in struggles. So the two together, I think, should be a very decisive factor in the 2024 elections. And the only thing left is the EVM. And I don't really know. We are trying to build up pressure. And Supreme Court, which has taken cognizance of the electoral bonds, of the Chandigarh electoral fraud, I think should also make sure that the people's faith in elections and the credibility of Indian elections and whatever transparency is still left of elections, that doesn't suffer any further damage. And the demand that we have placed from India coalition is 100% VVPAT counting.
That's
so even if return to ballot is not immediately possible, even if it takes a bit more of time and preparation, but 100% VVPAT counting is certainly possible. And VVPAT, the very term means voter verifiable paper audit trail. So if the voter doesn't actually get a printout of his vote, his or her vote, and that printout is not actually verified by the voter, then it becomes a misnomer. A VVPAT doesn't really mean anything. It becomes just another gadget, another next to EVM. So that's why our demand that 100% VVPAT. I mean, the voters should get the slips after casting the vote. They should verify those slips, and those verified paper slips of actual votes cast should be treated as substitute ballots. And actually, those slips should be counted. You need not count the EVMs anymore. EVM is just a machine to actually execute the vote. So it's just a machine which facilitates one method of voting in place of ballot paper. But the vote actually is seen only as a printout to the VVPAT machine. And once that is verified by the voter, I think that should be treated as the ballot. And we are just hoping that the Supreme Court, which has already taken cognizance of electoral bond and the damage that it has done, and the Chandigarh thing, and in fact, Chandigarh should be a cause for alarm. Because if in a mayoral election where only 35 votes were there, if the BJP could go to that length to manipulate the election outcome, then one can easily imagine what kind of manipulations and frauds can be possible when it concerns the Lok Sabha elections of crores of people, 543 seats. And in fact, the two reasons why Chandigarh fraud could be, set right, it could be actually seen to be a fraud, because it had ballots. Had it been on machines, probably it would have been very difficult. And because we have the video footage, because the CCTV worked. So in case where you don't have video footage and you don't really have ballots, it will be difficult to know exactly what mischief is taking place. So I think Chandigarh should be an eye-opening for the entire country, and even the Supreme Court should take serious cognizance of it. And if we can get a more favorable verdict from the Supreme Court, in terms of VVPAT counting. That should also help the process of the elections. So let us see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But on the ground, I see that the situation is improving in favor of the India coalition. And the BJP is actually quite desperate. And all this talk of 370 seats by BJP, 400 plus for the NDA coalition, I think this is just, rhetorical talks to keep their ranks sort of aggressive and just so much of kind of humbug obvious. When you are in a desperate situation, often people make this kind of statements. So it cannot suppress the actual nervousness and desperation of the BJP. Rather, they come out more loudly, eloquently through these claims.
Okay. Now, you have said, you have given a very good overview of the opposition unity happening in the country. And first that, okay, there's lots and lots of dissentment, reservation, you see, against the BJP regime among the common people. And that has become a moving factor, a guiding factor for the opposition political parties, that has compelled the opposition political parties to come to an understanding. Even if some of them are vacillating, some of them are going this side and that side, but there is so much anger at the ground level that it has actually compelled them to come to an understanding. And you have rightly said that, okay, Nitish Kumar's leaving the of Grand Alliance should affect much, particularly in Bihar. And third thing, you have said that, okay, this EVM business, if VVPAT is actually properly, if that issue could be followed up by the opposition political parties, and also this Supreme Court take cognizance of the fact, then maybe we can say that will be another positive thing. Now, do you think, you have already mentioned that, but do you think that actually a lot of psychological warfare is going on the part of the BJP to give an image that okay, they're getting, first they were speaking about 400 seats, now 300 something. So do you think that a psychological warfare is going, and then the mainstream media is supporting them, helping them?
Yeah, it's partly, you can call it a psychological warfare, battle of nerves. So trying to create that kind of perception. Partly it could also be just, if, for example, if the BJP is actually planning to rig the elections on the Chandigarh pattern, so maybe they are just to secure legitimacy for an eventually rigged outcome. They are creating this kind of an environment that, well, 400 seats. Okay, that's what the BJP targeting, looking at. So it could be both. It could be just a kind of facade being created, and it could also be psychological. Maybe it's a combination of both. But I'm sure that at the same time, the people should also take it as a major warning. Because if the BJP, for example, if you compare between 2014 and 2019, between Modi 1 and Modi 2, so the BJP is sort of, I call the BJP a political disaster for the country. So you have seen an escalation of the disaster, aggravation of the disaster, and escalation of the BJP's offensive. So basically, our constitution calls that says that India is a democracy. So all the features of Indian democracy, we have a parliamentary democratic system. So that parliamentary democratic system, that is being subverted every day. In the last parliament session in December, we saw more than 140 MPs being, suspended wholesale, just because they demanded a statement from the Home Minister. You can see how opposition governments, non-BJP governments are being toppled, opposition leaders being jailed. So parliamentary democracy is being eroded. Then you have democratic rights of the people. That's an important component of democracy. And you see what democratic rights we can talk of. The farmers, they wanted to come to Delhi for a peaceful protest to raise
They
their
were
demand.
opposed.
And you find that concrete barricades are being erected, barbed wire fences, nails are being driven on roads. Farmers are actually being treated like enemy soldiers with all these drones, tear gas shells, pellets, bullets. We have already lost some 3, 4 farmers who
Yes.
became martyrs. So you can see the democratic rights of the people. And now their democratic rights are also being denied in a very systematic manner. The institutions are an important component of democracy. The Supreme Court wanted the Election Commission to be appointed, chosen by a 3-member committee where there should be some balance. The Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition, and the Supreme Court Chief Justice. And that was quickly overruled by the BJP, and now they have changed the law where the BJP, they will have 2 members in the 3-member committee, which means the Election Commission will no longer have any autonomy, any neutrality. The media is already, you can see, the status of the media. So the elections were probably the only residual component of democracy in India. Rest of the democracy is already becoming dysfunctional. So now elections, and if elections also are conducted on the Chandigarh model, with doubtful EVMs, with electoral bonds, all the money that the BJP, now the Election Commission has said, the Supreme Court has said electoral bonds are dysfunctional, unconstitutional, and no further bonds will be issued. But the money that has already come to the BJP, some 8,000 crore rupees, that is already there with them. So huge inequality. There is absolutely no level playing field, huge influence of money power. So that's why if elections also lose all transparency and reliability in India, then there will be nothing left of India's democracy. And it will be a complete fascist takeover. So I think more and more people are also waking up to this danger. People who didn't really believe that India could lose its democracy, the constitution could actually be subverted. Now we can see that it is being subverted. Now we can see that the democracy is being eroded. Or I keep talking about these 2 events. If you just look at the Parliament inauguration and the Ram Mandir inauguration, the Parliament inauguration should have been a state event. There should have been absolutely no religious dimension to it. But we found that the Parliament inauguration was turned into a religious kind of event with so many priests, so much puja happening there. The Sengol, which is a symbol, relic of monarchy, the Sengol should have no place in a parliament, but the Sengol being handed over ceremonially to the Prime Minister by the priests. So the Parliament inauguration became a state event, became a religious event. Whereas the Ram Mandir inauguration, which should have been a completely religious event, with no room for politics, no room for actually the state, now that became a completely political event and almost the launching pad for the BJP's 24 election campaign. So this complete blurring of the distinction, line of demarcation between politics and religion, complete amalgamation. The constitution called for separation of religion and state. Now we find complete amalgamation of religion and state. And this can only be absolutely disastrous for India's democracy. So all these things, I think these threats are becoming more and more palpable, and more people hopefully are being able to appreciate the gravity of the situation, understand the threat. So that's why I believe the 24 election will be special, will be a bit like 1977 kind of an election, where people vote for restoration of democracy. Or even if 1977 is a bit too distant, 2004, we can all remember 2004, when NDA was in power, Gujarat had happened, There are talks about India shining,
Yeah.
and yet nobody was actually expecting, all the pollsters, nobody expected the Vajpayee government to lose, and yet the Vajpayee government lost, and the UPA took shape. So I think this will be more like 2004, where more and more people are aware of the danger, and people should be able to prevail. And Satpal Malik is right. That if the people cannot prevail in this election, if we cannot save democracy in this election, then probably we are not going to see any meaningful election in future.
In future. Now, thank you for actually sharing your thoughts with us. Now, if now we are also running out of time. Now, if I have to ask you the last question, that say if as an important opposition leader and who played a very important role in the formation of opposition alliance, so what would be, because you have been telling about the dangers actually we are facing. Now people are angry, and as opposition political parties, so what would be your last appeal, if you have to say in 2 3 sentences or maybe in 1 minute, what would be your appeal to the political parties as well as to the common man, to the general public?
Yes, so I think political parties which have now come together in India coalition, in spite of ideological differences, in spite of being belonging to different political spectrums, but they have come together precisely because we all understand that this is a now or never kind of situation, and this is probably our last chance to save democracy and to save India from the disaster which is unfolding. And the same is our appeal to the people. And when I talk about disaster, the disaster has multiple levels. One is definitely, if you look at in terms of people's livelihood, economic policies. So unemployment is mounting, prices are soaring like anything. And even though the BJP, with false figures, they say that poverty has declined in India, but the very fact that 80 crore people need some kind of subsidized food and what they call free food, that tells the real story. So I think economy is in shambles. The social fabric of India, our constitution made it very clear that India cannot be a Hindu Pakistan. India will have to be a secular country where the state will have no religion of its own. The citizens will have their religious freedom. The state will make no discrimination among people on the basis of religion. And now, if that goes away, that is a recipe for disintegration of India. We have to only look at Pakistan. Pakistan was formed on the basis of religion, and then it got divided on the basis of language and culture. So if we allow India to become a religion-driven, a Hindu supremacist kind of a thing, that is going to be the bulldozing of India's diversity in terms of federalism and also the religious plurality of India. If we try to bulldoze it into some kind of a monolith of Hindu supremacy, that is going to be disastrous for India. So I think Manipur has given us an example of what kind of disaster can be on the anvil for India. So we have ample examples to be worried about the real situation. And this is our last chance. And the people should wake up to this reality. And it is for we, the 75th year of the Constitution, we, the people of India who gave ourselves the Constitution, should also now stand in support of the Constitution with all our political wisdom, judgment, and determination and unity.
Thank you very much for your these final words. You have amply explained the situation facing the country. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and sparing time to be a guest for our program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and my best wishes to all your viewers and to all your friends.